Hello and welcome. Mickey Rourke has been one of Hollywood's most colourful and controversial stars. While his private life has drawn much publicity and speculation, his choice of movies and his performances have also provoked a lot of comment, both within the industry and in the wider world of gossip columns and media coverage. 3 of those films are Angel Heart with Robert DeNiro and Lisa Bonet, 9.5 Weeks with Kim Basinger, and Michael Cimino's gangster film Year of the Dragon. I caught up with Mickey in his star trailer in the backstreets of New Orleans during the shooting of Alan Parker's Angel Heart, a mystery thriller that takes us into the dark world of voodoo and murder. Mickey was playing a private detective sent on a curious and ultimately dangerous search for a missing singer.
The character in this one, just after talking to Alan today, seems to be probably one of the more likeable ones that you've played. He seems to be a warmer, more sympathetic character.
Yeah, I think after Year of the Dragon, I needed to do a movie that, was a little lighter, and this is about as light as I particularly want to get, or at the moment. It seemed to be, an average guy. It wasn't a guy who was on any sort of, things like the other characters, just kind of guys like kind of a 8 to 4 guys, an average Joe. He punches, he goes to work, does his job. If he sees something going on in the street, he doesn't bolt out after him, or he doesn't have anything, philosophical to say, like the motorcycle boy or whatever. He's just like an average guy. He sits there, he turn around, he'd look, go back to his hot dog or whatever. And I really didn't do any research. I normally spend a lot of time working on the character, and I didn't do that this time, and I just, the elements that were interesting was having Parker, who I respect his fearless work, and there was just pieces of, like there was things in Midnight Express I liked, and there was things in Birdie I liked, and things in Fame that I liked, and I really liked Midnight Express a lot. I thought he went for the time that he did it in. I think he with the whole thing with Moroder's music and all. He said it. There was a certain. He used the music and the circumstances really in a very innovative way for that period when I don't know what year it was, but. It seemed like every movie after that, it tried to have that Giorgio Moroder sound to it. And Alan, everybody forgets Alan was the first one to do it. It was
to use him,
even before Adrian did it. Used him in Flashdance, And, so I was really excited about working with Alan, and like I said, the character. It wasn't necessarily so much the script that interests me as much as, working with Alan on, there was enough about the script that
intrigued you.
Yeah.
Well, he said he likes you very much. He said it's very rare that he felt you two hit it off pretty well, and sort of ended up walking around New York, around Manhattan for an afternoon.
We didn't know each other.
Yeah, well, as I'm sure you know, he's a bit of a rebel, so he likes to say exactly what he thinks.
Yeah, I mean, we were both a little tentative about each other when we met, and he heard stories about me, and I heard stories about him, and I think we were circling for a while,
Yeah.
And I think he thought I was going to come in with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and I thought he was going to throw temper tantrums like I heard, and give me line readings or whatever. But that wasn't the case, And
I think he's a very straight guy. He doesn't bullshit.
Well, most of your real good directors, the ones I've worked with, Cimino and Francis and Parker, don't bullshit. Don't, or at least they don't bullshit me, and I don't think they bullshit themselves, and that helps. You don't have to play all those games, and you just shoot the fucker, and He's a lot more than I thought he was. You know, I mean, I knew the guy made interesting pictures. A couple of them were commercial successes, but he's a lot more of an actor's director, and he knows how to get exactly what he wants from an actor, and that's pretty rare, you know. And he has his little funny way about doing it, but you know, he gets it
like
done.
What? What sort of eccentric, if you like, about his style?
He won't give up. Like if there's an actor he's working with, and it's not because a lot in this movie we've worked with unprofessionals, and I would if I had my way about it, I'd rather work with unprofessionals because you get acting in a purer form. You get a sense of truth and a kind of twinkle in the eye that a lot of your so-called professionals are so busy. They're so fucking nervous because they're finally working that there's nothing going on. You know what I mean? Or they're so full of themselves that what they're doing is a little full of shit. And we'll be working with someone who's like an unprofessional. Alan will take the time, first of all, to get to know the actor on a personal basis. I mean, he'll really go out of the way and just ask the person about their life and be very genuine, you know, about it. And even though it is time-consuming and it's very busy, he does take the time to do that. And so when he's working, before he starts working, or when he's in the middle of working, and the actor is having problems, he already has the trust of them, and gradually, you know, I'll look at him and he'll have this funny face, this funny looking, you know, his face gets in a certain look, and he almost looks like an eagle. You know, he's got that hawk nose, and he calls it a Roman nose. I said, well, it looks more like an eagle's beak to me. And he'll sit there and he'll lower his head, and his eyes will just focus, and he'll sit there, and you can see him, and if it's not what he wants, he'll close his eyes and his head will fall to his chest. And if it's what he likes, he'll just, you could just see him have a little. So all I got to do is like look at his expression, and you can tell if it's got to be done again. And it's just, I think there's a part of him that's so vulnerable, you know, because you could work with other directors and they have so many other things that they enjoy doing, or maybe they don't want to be on the set, or it's a drag to be there, but it's what they do. But with Alan, I can't really see him being happy anywhere else, you know.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's aspects of it when he's writing. I'm sure he likes that because he's a very good writer.
Yeah. Well, he's saying today that he wants to get back and sort of found himself again as a writer doing this, and he wants to get back and do something.
I mean, the difference in the first and second draft of this was unbelievable. You don't see a second draft so clean and so all. It's funny because when he gave me the first draft, I made specific notes where I was going to discuss with him about changes and maybe this could happen there or whatever. And when he gave me back the second draft, every fucking thing that I had circled was changed already, and it was. It was nice. It was changed for the better. And
you're saying about the character that he's pretty average sort of Joe.
Yeah, he's really like a.
He's streetwise. I mean, he's no Sherlock Holmes. He's no.
Doesn't want to be.
No. Does he realise at all what he's getting into?
No, that's why you can't justify everything. It's like a guy living day to day. It's like when I go to work that day, I know the scene. I know where I'm coming from in the scene and where I'm going. It's just very on a day-to-day thing. Even though we're shooting out of continuity, it's very. I can't get too deep with it because Harry doesn't know what the fuck's going on anyway, And I really don't know sometimes what he's doing, why he's doing what he's doing. So I just leave it at that, you know.
It's an intriguing story. All I've got to go on is talking to Alan, obviously reading 1.5-page thing, but he explained a bit more about it to me. And the thing that did intrigue me is the fact that the character is warmer than than the white character in Year of the Dragon. That's come and gone, obviously, in Australia. I don't know how it did in America, but it did moderately good business.
Yeah, no, it didn't do good. Well, they hate Cimino here, and didn't critique the film as a movie. They got so much hatred for the man in New York and LA that it's like it did pretty well in France and other countries. I think I'm not sure which European countries it did good in, but they just really killed it in a lot of different ways here before it,
The character itself, though, when he had more chips on his shoulder than a lumberjack, didn't he? Did you mean to play him as, in a way, detestable as he was on the screen?
See, I gotta honestly say, it's like there's businessmen, especially the people who handle the money or whatever, and the guys that work at the studios that are Stanley Whites without a fucking gun, and a badge. And so what the fuck is the difference to me? I mean, if that's the way the guy was, and I hung out with the guy for a long time before I did the movie.
Hung out with
Stanley. And
you mean in your head you hung out?
No, with him. With the real Stanley White.
There is a real Stanley White?
Yeah. And he's one of my best friends. I mean, if I ever had a problem, the first guy I'd call is Stanley White, because, I know the guy's not going to say he's going to the beach, or he's, even if it's a small problem or a personal problem, or, I think there's a part of Michael that's very driven, that was part me, part the real Stanley, part Michael, part what the issue was, and it was all
but he reneged on his own family background, his family history, changed his name to White so he wasn't going to be identified as a Pollack. He was a chauvinist. He was a sexist. He's a bit of a cunt when it came to just being tough, which is part of his job. But it all added up. But
if you look at the 10 guys walking down the street, none of them are going to fit that description in one way or another.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just wondering if you meant to make him all of what he was on the screen in the end.
I tried very hard to make him that way.
Did you? Right.
And, we paid the consequences for it because, like I said, when Michael makes a movie, he shows it as it really is. I mean, there's a certain sense of truth, whether you like it or not, and a lot of people are offended by that type of man.
But you're not saying, though, that if he was a nicer guy, that the film would have been any different?
In the situations the situations that happened was about a guy who just didn't want to turn his back. He had a job to do. He had a certain sense of loyalty and dignity and a certain amount of sense of self-worth. And that's the way he chose to do it, His background, he was a Marine, he was in Vietnam, he came out of there, he was in Special Forces. There was a whole before life for the character. And the whole thing with the Orientals, there was a connection underneath, an underlying thing that was there, because now they were there, now they were here, and he couldn't rest, and
was he racist?
No, I really don't think he was a racist, to tell you the truth. If he was a racist, I don't think he would have gotten involved with the girl. I'm talking about, there's a lot of different degrees of being a racist, Everybody's a racist. Or, you can sit in the bar with your friends and start talking about the fucking English or the fucking,
Australians
or the fucking Indians. Everybody's got a bit of it in them,
Yeah, sure.
And if you don't, then you're a priest,
Or a liar.
Yeah, so I'm very proud of the sense of commitment that Michael had and what we all put into that film, because there's a lot of that in real life. And we paid dearly for it. We paid for it because of Michael tried to do the same thing in Heaven's Gate, and he got creamed, and to show how it was then.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't accept that. They want to see John Wayne, man. They want to see...
That's right.
They want to see, little tearjerkers and shit. They don't want they don't want to go see it the way it is, And Michael's he's on a very high level as a filmmaker. It's like he's not going to have a prop on the set. That every prop on the set, he knows why it's there. He oversaw it all before it got there. Right. He picked it out. It's very, very thorough. Everything about the Chinese gangs is true, and yet the movie community made us put a disclaimer on the film, and no other filmmakers or nobody, not one fucking director in Hollywood stood up for his fellow director and said, "Hey, man, that he's making a movie. This is a movie. It's not a political statement."
Yeah, right. Which, of course, is almost exactly what happened.
And but it's Michael. They hate Michael.
I know.
And it's the critics in New York and L.A. especially, and like the major critic in Los Angeles, or one of the big mouths that passes, one of the elitists, is I think her name is Susan Benson or Sheila Benson.
Sheila Benson.
Yeah, and I mean, she writes this bullshit, phony fucking review, and then somebody says to me, I was at some party, well, her husband's Chinese. So I'm saying there was a whole...
Right.
I mean, we really... I was very angered by the way it was handled, but yet I'd rather make a movie any day, like, with Michael, that was like Year of the Dragon, than 99% of the crap that comes out,
What about the character in 9.5 Weeks then? I mean, where did you research that at all? Did you...
No.
Was that straight off the script?
Adrian had me dress a certain way, can't walk a certain way, and lose a few pounds and speak clearly, and not kind of be so loose and street. He made me kind of...
You're a businessman.
Tried to make me as much as I could like a businessman, That was very difficult. And he go, "You're slouching." And I go, "Okay, stand up." Then he says, "No, you're slurring your words." And I would really try to...
What sort of... that character again was... That's interesting. I don't know whether you've had any feedback, but in Australia, when the film was previewed...
After Year of the Dragon, I don't really want any feedback anymore. Because...
No, this is just...
No, I'm talking about from the critics.
This is not critical. This is just instinctive reaction.
Yeah.
The women loved the film, and they liked you. The men were intrigued by the film, but they didn't like you.
Yeah.
And I suspect it was because they were frightened to let themselves go to identify with you in some way. There was something that character, not you, but it was the character.
Yeah. Well.
what sort of what were you trying to play? What sort of a character was he? What sort of a man was he?
See, it's hard for me to say because the movie that I wanted to make in the beginning was much different than the movie that came out. So it's really hard for me to comment on that. All I tried to do was, when I knew that they were going for a certain amount of commercial kind of things in the movie and not take it into a further direction where I wanted to go.
Where did you want to go?
I wanted to go all the way. I wanted to go all the way into specific intimate moments that you have, like after you make love. Certain little things you do or say that we all know about, and a certain little way that your body will be, or the way you touch someone afterwards, and let some of the dialogue come from that.
Right.
But everybody was very scared of that.
What about Adrian? Was he scared?
I think in the beginning he wasn't, but I think in the end there was too many pressures to let him make that kind of a movie. I think he wanted to make that very badly, but he says, what am I going to do? Make a movie that 3 people are going to go see?
Yeah.
So there's always those pressures.
I don't see. What just taking on the surface what you're describing, what you wanted to do, would just seem to add to the character. And in fact,
but there was a lot of also. But you see, there was also a lot of acts in it that weren't particularly nice.
Ah, well, that's a different thing.
So there was the real violent thing, not as much physically violent as a mental manipulation, but was mental through some sort of physical intimidation.
Right.
Yeah. And that would have, and then go to those other moments from that.
Yeah.
That and really go all the way, and that's where I wanted to head with it.
And was Kim? I mean, did you talk to Kim about it? Was she happy to go to do that as well?
I think that there was a lot of things going on. Kim and I didn't speak very much because we didn't speak very much. Because I think it was just choices that we made not to speak about it. We just did it.
Right.
We didn't talk about it.
Right. Are you happy with the film? I mean, given that there were those restrictions and those...
Well, I'll tell you, the most honest answer I can give you with the film is, compared to what they make and what my choices are, I'm glad that I made that movie, yes.
Right.
Compared to what it could have been or what I wanted it to be, no.
Right. Because movie making is compromises, ultimately. I mean, that's what it's all about. How did you get into it in the first place? I mean, like a lot of people sort of get into kids' plays and high school stuff, or was it, or go to the movies a lot and it's a dream?
No, it was just me. I just stopped doing different things and got into it, and it was not...
So you came out of high school and did other stuff? Or?
Yeah. And I really never had any burning desire, to do it.
To act or...
And even now it comes and goes, There's periods of 6 months to a year where I really loathe it, hate it, don't want to do it, don't work for a year or whatever.
What else would you do, though? I mean...
I'd rather not do anything, I mean, it's not... It's just, there's so much, like I said, after you go through certain things, and there are not necessarily the compromises, but you lose control of, on a creative level, you start to lose the control of what everybody's agreed to do, and then it becomes what they want you to do, and that's when it becomes difficult for me.
Despite his take-it-or-leave-it attitude, Mickey Rourke has gone on to complete more than 90 movie roles. These have included The Wrestler and Harley Davidson and The Marlboro Man. But in the 90s, he returned to boxing, a sport he loved and was quite good at as an amateur in his younger days, to try his luck as a professional. He won a number of bouts, but took such a pounding in some of them that he had to have reconstruction surgery on his face before returning to the big screen. His latest films are War Hunt and The Commando.